What's up, everybody? Using My Story family. So good to be here with each and every one of you. I got my bro here.
What's up, guys?
And we have Manny and Jesse O all the way from Orange County. Good to be here with you guys.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure, man. It is a pleasure to be here in the studio.
And you guys are well known for sharing with men's issues. You guys have your own podcast, and they always do like a funny stuff.
Yeah.
In the beginning. I love the funny.
We're hilarious, dude.
You guys are hilarious.
Yeah.
We have to implement it. It's just part of the brand.
Yeah.
Keep it humorous.
I like
right.
the humor. Also, big Laker fans.
This guy does
One
not
of
watch
us.
dude, he doesn't watch basketball. He has no idea what's going on,
I
dude.
don't. Is that the one where you hit it with the racket?
He still thinks James Worthy's in the starting lineup?
That's going to be a big topic of discussion for men's issues. Not liking the Lakers is definitely a big men's issue.
Yeah.
But today we're going to have a super focused topic on talking about men's issues and men's mental health. So I know you guys are pretty much, I would call you experts.
Ooh,
Wow.
you an expert?
I'm just going to say
That's an honor.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You got to
dude.
play the sound. The sound.
That's
on
a good
that,
title.
you know what I
I
mean?
like that.
But you guys, I would say.
Ooh.
So you guys know a lot about men's mental health. So we're gonna ask a few questions, and if you know a guy, if you have a father, a son, a friend, anyone in your world that feel like they need to hear about this, please like, share, subscribe, send it to somebody, because we're gonna get into some big issues. I've been seeing a lot of videos too and hearing a lot of stories about suicide and men taking their life. And it feels like, I don't have no statistics in front of me, but I feel like it's predominantly men that are taking their lives. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. But number one, we're going to start with these questions. Sam, you want to read the first question?
Absolutely. So in your guys' opinions, what are some signs that a man may be struggling with his mental health?
You want to go first? Go.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question because I think if anyone's really good at hiding, struggling with your mental health, it's going to be a guy. So
Why is that? Because we have to, right?
we have to.
We
Yeah,
can't show our cards.
yeah, and
Strong.
and there's this expectation to have to perform, to have to keep your family right, and so you got to be right, for your family to be right.
Yep.
So I think some of the common issues I see is guys who are like overly aggressive, overly angry, overly disconnected with their family members, and sometimes they don't even have the complaint. It's like the wife that's complaining about the relationship, or other people are complaining about, how they're detached or how they're over emotional. And so that's what brings them to therapy, is like all these people are starting to notice issues in their life. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. What do you think about it, Jesse?
Can you read the question to me one time? I just
Yeah,
want to let it sink in a little bit. Thanks,
It's,
Sam.
what are some signs that a man might be struggling with his mental health?
I think that's the tricky part, because a lot of men, like I said, they're not going to show their cards. A lot of times they're going to isolate, or maybe they'll use humor to like deflect on what's really going on here. So for a man to be like truly like sensitive or to be vulnerable, as a lot of people get mixed up vulnerability and weakness, it's like it's difficult to find that. They're not going to put that out. They're going to maybe bury themselves in work or in hobbies. So like I think, and once again, maybe the idea of being vulnerable involves communication. And I mean, I grew up, a lot of men just didn't really talk about real things. And I'll say real things because like me and Manny were having this conversation, how like, we'll small talk about like football, or like, when we got in the car over here, we talked about work. Like we didn't jump right into like deep dive into our mental health issues. Not that like it was really calling for it, but like guys keep it very surface. Guys don't want to go to that next step, that next level. So, and it's based on just kind of like our upbringing and like the idea of what a man is supposed to be. So I think it is hard to find signs, but I think isolating and I think humor a lot of times a big deflection for men. So
Yeah, that's one thing that came to mind. It's like, how many conversations does this person have where it's a vulnerable conversation, where they're opening up about something? And if you're not having many of those conversations, that's a good indicator that there's some struggle happening, right?
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's isolation, and it's also the label that society put on men.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about it, we just
Right.
deal with it on our own, and we just continue punching in from 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
come home, you do what you got to do, eat dinner, spend time with the kids, you go to bed, rotate the next day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crucial.
That's huge. What do you think? Why do you think men are less likely to seek help for mental health issues? It kind of piggybacks off the first question.
Yeah. It depends on where the stage of life. You know, I think for someone who is at the stage of life that we're in, where we have kids, we have a family, time. You know, we were just talking about like when the hell do we have time to like focus on ourselves, right? When you have to go to work, when you have to take care of your family, how do you find that self-care time? So I think that's one of the biggest issues. It's like justifying the time for yourself. You know, especially for myself, I come from a Mexican family, and we don't prioritize mental. That's not a thing. There's no such thing, right? Like you prioritize buying groceries, you prioritize even going to church, you prioritize getting your job done. You don't even call in sick for your birthday. You know?
Yeah.
But like mental health, like no way. You know, what is that? You know,
Exactly.
It's huge.
yeah.
That's good.
How about you, Jesse? What do you think?
For me, like I grew up primarily around women, so I already kind of was like grasping at what masculinity looked like. It was a real struggle for me. So if I showed any type of feminine type of like upbringing, like if I showed emotions, I was like I can't do that. I have to overcompensate for what I already didn't have. I didn't have a father to really raise me. So like I think the idea of just like back to the initial question was just like, yeah, like I didn't know how to be like almost a man in some way. So like it was a real struggle for me in that sense. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also think that one of the biggest things is judgment.
Yeah.
Right? Is how are they going to see me weaker because I'm feeling depressed or I'm fearful of this next chapter in my life.
Yeah.
And what are my kids going to think about me? What's my significant other going to think about me?
right.
Yeah.
More importantly, those of us who were raised with a father and didn't raise us that way to be vulnerable, what's he
Right.
going to think about me?
Yeah.
A common question I'll ask a lot of times when I'm running groups is like, I'll be like, when's the first time you saw a man cry? And the response to me a lot of times is surprising because people say like, I never saw my dad cry. Or it had to be the death of somebody. Like the emotion to show that, which to me is like a really good therapeutic release, is like to get like a good cry out. Like to me, it's so foreign to men. They would only see it through a female. So to show that emotion was like almost that next level of breakdown of weakness once again, to where it's just like, I can't do that. And then, you know, you go into a group therapy or session room and you're asking people to like show that emotion. There's a real resistance to do that. So like, how do we even do that? Like, am I allowed to do that in here? So
Think about your role models, right? Like who taught you to be a dad or be a man, right? And you usually get those habits or those ways of being transferred down to you from your family. And so, this isn't a bashing session on our parents,
No, absolutely not.
but
No, not at all.
but this is kind of where we learn some of that.
Oh, I'm in the wrong podcast.
You know?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you so okay, let's talk about the time thing. What are some tips you have for men that are working overtime? They get up early, they get home late, and they just don't feel like they have the time to give to their mental health. What are some baby steps a guy could take to start going in the right direction?
Yeah. Baby steps can look different, I think, for everybody. It could literally be learning how to take a breath, right? Learning how to go outside for 5 minutes, take a breath, stop listening to whatever you're listening to, just like go out in nature, right? It could be, you know, instead of scrolling on your phone, if you add up the time that we sit on our phones and scroll, like that time adds up, right? And instead of doing that, like finding time for you to go out on a run, finding some time for you to like do a prayer if you're religious, whatever that is, right? But really, time really comes down to making sure that you can account for your time wasted and replace that for like consistent time that can be productive for yourself.
Good.
So, and I think it could start with really like learning to breathe in a healthy way, right?
What does that mean?
Learning to breathe in a healthy way. It's like recognizing, you know, your emotional responses to different things in your life, right? Maybe it's to your wife who is complaining about something. Maybe it's to your kid who's screaming, who's having a tantrum, and you start to recognize how that affects you internally. So instead of yelling back or reacting to that, you learn to take a moment, take a pause, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, and like really have that right there. Like do it. That's more powerful than anyone can ever think.
That could prevent so many snaps.
It could prevent snaps. It could fix relationships. It could fix generational damage that's being done to the family. And it's powerful. It really
Good.
is. Yeah.
I like that. What do you think? What do you think, Jesse?
Well, I was gonna say one thing before you can like realize what you need to do. It's also just recognizing what is wrong. Like we talked about September being like Suicide Awareness Month. I think a lot of men just don't even know. We're so out of step with the idea of where we're at emotionally, physically. I mean, I could tell you right now, like you could probably be like, okay, this hurts or this is going on here, but emotionally, like we're just not really tied into that. So I think it might be really important for anybody that's out there is finding like, okay, something is wrong, something is different. And we talked about this, Manny and I, like sometimes it just takes talking to one person. I'm not, I think therapy is so important. It's a big part of like the puzzle, but learning to like just talk to somebody and trust in somebody to be your true self, which a lot of times we never get to that, but learning to talk about that and then incorporating, I think, the signs or the activities like, taking a deep breath or finding something fun where we can like just really enjoy ourselves instead of being just so tied into like what we do as men is just work, and we guess we don't really find time to breathe at all. So
that's a big thing when you think about like what you're spending your time on. It's also your environment, like you said, right? Like who are the people around you? Are there people you can actually like say, hey, dude, like I need to talk, or like I'm really struggling. Like the house is in chaos. I just had a baby. Shit's fucking crazy right now. Like I just need to like take a moment, Yeah.
We've talked about that a lot of times on this podcast. Is your support system.
Yeah.
Is having people that you can go to for different reasons, right? So like you have somebody you can talk to for dad advice, somebody else for financial advice, somebody else for marital advice. And support systems are so huge.
Yeah.
And it's changing with a lot of people that I know because they're starting to get plugged in with people and be like, okay, now I can be vulnerable and I can talk about things and start exposing things, which I think is very, very good because you also talked about therapy. A lot of people won't jump into therapy, but a good baby step to therapy is your support system. Yeah. Right? Once you get to that point, you're like, all right, now I need to go to therapy.
Yeah.
You talked about judgment earlier, and I think if you're feeling judged, for opening up, you're not in the right place. You're not with the right people. You know what I mean? And so there's no issue with you. There's an issue with the people around you. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important for someone to recognize that if they try to open up to someone, maybe they get inspired listening to this and try to open up to someone, they don't get the right response back. Don't feel bad about that. It's like it's maybe it's time to change up the people around you.
That's good. That's good because you're right. Someone could hear this and they could say, well, let me just start talking to everybody. That's also not that great of an idea.
No.
It's not a great idea to go post about your feelings. Right? It's not a great idea just to go dump your feelings off on someone that maybe you're not that familiar with. So how do you find those right people to open up to?
Such a good question. Maybe it's about learning to open up, too.
Like,
right?
That's good.
Do you know when you feel safe? Like, do you know when you really feel safe with somebody?
I do, but I had to learn that.
Yeah, right. Okay, but that's part of the process, and that's also a part of trust. Though, is like there's going to be people throughout your life that you'll put trust in, and they'll disobey your trust. And I grew up on like loyalty. Loyalty was a very important trait for me. So if somebody did me a disservice and broke my trust, like I'd go like all or nothing. I'd be like, I'm never going to trust anybody again, which is like not possible here on planet Earth. Right. We've got to build trust with people. So I think like it is letting go of the idea that people are going to disappoint you. Yeah. I think that's okay. And learning to like incorporate like healthy people. I guess this goes also to the question of like, what does a healthy person look like in your life? So it is important to look at like who's at your table, who's like bringing you up instead of dragging you down. It really is. It's a practice.
It is.
And you're gonna mess up at times and you're gonna fail at times. But the important thing is to continue doing that, just continue putting effort and work into like building trust and building friendships. And over time, I think you're gonna find the right people, the right support system, and it's just like work and it's effort. But if you put something into that, you're gonna get something from that.
A lot of times, the starting point is therapy. That's where you start, right? A lot of the people that I see, the guys that I see in my therapy office, like I'm the only one they're talking to about the shit they're talking about.
Yeah,
and that's okay, And through that process, they're learning how to talk about their feelings. Yeah. They're learning who to talk to about their feelings, and they're learning how to develop those types of relationships. So your starting point might not be with your friends right now. It might not be with your family right now. It might have to be with a therapist right now.
I could also say too, if somebody like being in recovery like myself, like being thrown into a room of people that I've never met in my entire life, but had like the same affliction as me, like that helped me like to go, okay, this is what safe looks like. A bunch of people fighting for the same cause, like-minded, like we want to get better. So that's another way is like, if you are like on the addiction or have an issue with drugs, alcohol, like AA meetings, other type of recovery-based meetings, like that's where a lot of people they're going for a similar goal, I believe, and then there's a safety with that, and you get to learn once again of like, okay, this is who I want, this is good, this benefits my recovery, this does not benefit my recovery. It's always okay to let people go. I think we have going back to that loyalty thing, like I know so many people that I've known this person since I was a kid, Jesse. Like, I'm loyal to this, I'm loyal to that. I'm like, you're loyal for the wrong reasons. Like, we've got to be loyal to ourselves sometimes and making our decisions throughout that process. So
for sure.
Yeah.
That's good. What about number 10, Sam? I know you like number 10.
Sam.
Number 10 was a good one.
Come on.
It's how do cultural factors influence men's mental health across different communities?
So let's talk about white people, guys. Let's just talk about white people.
It isn't automatic.
And so we're going to talk about...
But I think you could spit on this a lot.
Well,
so
I mean, here's the thing. Like, culture isn't all about race, right? It's about like the dynamic of your family, of where you came from. So culture means someone who was raised with no father in their family, right? Like raised around women, right? That's part of culture. Or culture can be like someone living with parents who came from Mexico and tried to establish a life here in America. So really, it's a great question because everyone has a unique experience with like opening up about their mental health. And so it's a complicated question to answer, right? I think really what I think about is like learning about your own family. Like, I think that's a good start right there. Learning how your family growing up, how did they solve problems? How did they address mental health? Did anyone talk about it? It definitely had to. Someone in your family most likely had a mental health issue or an addiction issue. And how was that talked about? How was that perceived? How did you guys feel about that? And learning about how is it that my family taught me how to deal with problems around mental health. So I think, and that's something that you also go through therapy to learn, right? Yeah.
What I noticed too is, depending on how you were raised, some people view correction as rejection.
Yeah.
So how do you as somebody who didn't ever grow up with correction, only rejection, now you're an adult and you have good quality people in your life who genuinely want to help you get better, but you just been beat up so many times that you can't trust nobody no more.
Right.
How do you get started with that? What advice do you have? Because I know for me, when I got clean, I'm pretty sure the same for you and the same for you. When you get clean, it's hard to trust people, but then you start trusting them, and then they start bringing up issues of your life that nobody ever loved you enough or respected you enough to tell you about. Wow. How do you go through that and deal with? It's an awkward season of your life, and it's kind of a never-ending season.
Yeah.
Where people continuously challenge you. How do you deal with that as you're coming and growing as a man?
Yeah. What a great question. A part of it is awareness that you respond that way to feedback,
That's good.
And it's not your fault that you respond that way. It's not, but just awareness that I have the tendency to do this, and I have to be able to call myself out when I do that. And hopefully, at some point you start to develop the right type of relationships where you could talk through that experience, right? Maybe you get mad at someone for giving you feedback, but they stick around and they tell you, hey, bro, like, I love you. Like, this isn't about me rejecting you. It's not because I tell you this because I love you and I want you to get better. Good. Right. But it takes your awareness to be able to be like, you know what, I do respond that way to feedback. Like, maybe I got to check myself a little bit,
Yeah. I had someone say, like, hold on, don't change your face. I'm going to get a mirror. They go, this is what you look like when I correct you. And I'm like, no way. That's what I look like. They're like, yeah, this is what you look like when you get corrected. Yeah. And I was like, man. And so I changed from maybe acting a certain way to talking to myself while I get corrected and saying, this is good for you. Don't say nothing bad. You need to hear stuff like this. Yeah. And then now with certain people getting to a place where you say, you know what? I'm grateful for this. I'm thankful for this. I need more of this. Yeah. And then sometimes you get to the point where you could ask for it.
Yeah.
and say, hey, what did you see about how I responded? Or
You start wanting it more.
exactly, because it's making you grow. It's making you better. And I think that's a healthy place for every man to be, is a place where you could say, hey, how can I get better at this? How can I get better as a leader? How can I get better as a dad? How can I get better as a husband?
Yeah. One common misconception too is that in therapy you're going to get corrected. You know what I mean? And that's not how therapy works a lot of the times. Maybe more like if you're doing like group therapy in a treatment center, there's like a lot of calling out that can happen at times. But one-on-one therapy is a little bit different, right? It's a little more tender, a little more warm. And so, you know, probably like words that guys are like, ugh, you know, but
tender and warm, I'm good.
Tender and warm. That sounds like Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but the feedback is so much more consumable because of that reason. So you're not going to go into a therapy office. We're big advocates for therapy. You're not going to go in a therapy office and get scolded. You know, you're gonna go in a therapy office and you're supposed to feel understood. You're supposed
I went to the wrong therapist.
You know what I mean?
I went to the wrong therapist.
Yeah, and that's the relationship that has to be the foundation.
That is a huge misconception.
Yeah,
sure.
You're not gonna go in there and get. And a lot of people in the
roasted.
Latino community, they'd be like, "No, like I don't want to know what the hell's wrong with me. Like,
Cabron.
she's got to go to therapy." You know?
Mandilon.
Oh no!
Doesn't that go back to that the idea the agenda behind it really is. Once again, I totally agree with you what you have to say. Like, it is like the awareness, it's a big part of it. But like, even in those rooms that are extremely rough, and you know me, like I'll be in there calling people out left and right. But
Called me out the first day I met you.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, you know what's up. So like
that face too.
Look at the idea. He's the one that told me to look at that face.
look at that face. But it's what was my agenda though? Like, and that takes time to develop as well. But like, what is this person? Yeah, what is the motive of this person's actions? Like, they're not out to get me. They're again, they're here to bring me up. Yep. Like, I'm not trying to knock you down. I'm gonna bring you up before I give you a little push. But like, I want you to be like to realize we're ground level here. Nobody's better here right now. We're all just we're fighting for the same cause here. We have the same the same belief, the same want. So it's just like, I think that is what's the agenda. But it is the awareness of like, hey, people are not always trying to pick me apart, or people are not always trying to hurt me, or they're not trying to get something from me. Like, they just, what they want is the best for me, which is like, I don't even want the best for me. I'm my own worst enemy. So it is learning that and being aware, like, people are safe, people are okay. So
that's good.
Yeah.
What about this one? I know we're all big on social media, but what impact does social media have on men's mental health today?
I think there's pros and cons, right? So I think the mental health movement is like gigantic right now. So there's a more like awareness, which is great. So, but I think you kind of mentioned it earlier, right? Like, well, I see people sometimes is like they'll go on social media and they'll post how they're feeling, and they'll dump out everything that they have, and it's kind of like, it's sad at the same, because it's kind of sad though, because like they don't have that person that they can go and talk to, and that's like not always the healthiest way to do it. So there's a lot of pros and cons. I mean, I don't know if you want to like lean on more one than the other.
Lean on the cons.
Okay, let's
talk about the comparison.
I got a gripe with social media right now.
You got a gripe?
Rant.
Yeah.
Baby.
So,
go on a rant. Go on a rant, Manny.
So
tear it up.
I think social media has made people feel more alone than ever before. And I think social media is a tool designed to help us stay connected, but what it's really doing right now is it's putting us in a position where we look at our lives and it makes us feel like we're not doing good enough, or people are having more fun than we are, or we're missing out in some type of way. I think it's true for it's a true factor for social media, and a big thing that no one talks about is pornography. I think especially with men, I think it really leads to us just having these like unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we compare ourselves and we're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're sitting there on the toilet looking at it. No, just kidding.
Yeah, straight up. So you not only feel
Come
bad.
on, Manny. Break it down, man.
You're not even feeling bad for like what you're looking at on your phone, but then afterwards you're feeling bad for the fucking 30 minutes you spent on your phone, like wasting your time, right?
Yeah.
So I really think that those are some of the cons.
Good.
I got social media bringing more awareness, and I love that, but like I don't think a lot of us know how to use it, to our advantage.
That's good.
Yeah.
There's a loneliness to it, and there's a disconnect, and it's been like that. I think it's growing more and more and more that we're not like, we can rely on social media for so many different platforms. So I mean, I think some people they won't actually go to therapy. They'll just read a bunch of therapy blogs or go through Instagram or TikTok and be like, wow, I read this really cool quote, and I'll apply that to my life. But like, do you know how to apply that to your life? Like, you're not really doing the groundwork. And I think that's where we're missing a little bit, is like, there's like, once again, I think there's a lot of positives to it. There's an introduction to it, but I think I've already mentioned this. There's got to be some work involved in it, though. We can't just rely on it to like, AI is not our therapist. It's it's like we've got to like really expand that and like
ChatGPT. Why am I depressed?
Yeah.
Here are the 25 reasons why you might be depressed today.
But then it's all like pretty close on, but like you're not
Because
really.
you're talking to me all day.
It comes back and says, "Get a life."
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think also comparing yourself to other people, they might have more than you. It looks like their life is better than yours. But I think there's something to contentment, like being happy with what you have.
Yeah.
Especially coming from so much. A lot of people that listen to us are people that struggle with addiction or have struggled with addiction, people that made it out of suicidal ideation or a lot of mental health issues. And speaking from experience, it's easy to think about what you don't have, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that you already got.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you're still here is a big deal.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you're not in jail for the rest of your life is a big deal. The fact that we have kids now,
Yeah.
man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially if you never really had a dad growing up, and now you have the opportunity to be a dad.
Yeah.
All those things are huge.
Yeah.
But social media sometimes makes you forget about what you have, and it makes you think about what you don't have.
Absolutely. I think you have to adopt that mindset, because if you think about things in terms of value, like it's not finances, not money, not rich wealth, but like value, like the value all comes from within us, right? Like we're valuable.
Yeah.
And we have the abilities to create valuable things. Look at this amazing studio you have. Look at the things that you're doing with social media. Like that's comes from you directly.
Yeah.
And so if we can really turn our focus into how we can create value, how valuable we are, I think that is a way to break that pattern of comparing ourselves.
That's real
good.
good.
And we're all valuable.
You have your uniqueness that you bring. No one else could bring what you bring. That's your thing.
What you were touching on, those gratitude, right? It was that we lose focus on that so much. I think something I tell clients a lot of times is like, I forget about day one sometimes. I think about that first day that I get sober, like, and because I get so lost in it. And it's just because life is busy.
Yeah.
I got 2 kids now. I've, good job. It's just, it can be consuming and we lose focus and then we start to lose ourselves. That's why it's important to take a look back and just look at where we came from.
Yeah.
And we've overcome so much and achieved so much. So don't lose focus on that. And social media is really a platform that you can get lost in that. Like, yeah, I'm doing this, but I could do more. Maybe it doesn't feel like it's enough, but man, if you can get to be content, it is enough.
Yeah.
You don't need any more. What you got right in front of you is like, it's really good enough.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I read a quote I think it was yesterday. They write inspirational quotes every day. And
Of course, yeah.
You could be anything you want to be in the world, but you can't be me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's like,
amazing.
bro, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You really think about like, that's how valuable I am. Nobody
Right.
will ever. There'll
Yeah.
never be a Samuel Morales again
Yeah.
outside
Seriously.
of my little boy.
Yeah.
But he'll never be me.
This,
What we're bringing to the table and bringing awareness and having you guys come out and doing these podcasts. There's other people doing it, but they'll never have these 4 people in the same room again.
Yeah.
so true.
That's good.
It's crazy because I think if motivation for anyone who is a parent who has kids, I think one of the thing is like if you can't make yourself change that way of thinking, like you're gonna pass that way of thinking down to your kids.
Yeah.
That's
And I made myself suffer for so many years, like doubting myself, like feeling like I'm not worth anything, like other people have it better than me. And I just think about like, dude, my daughters like grow up with that mentality. That's gonna fucking kill me, dude.
Oh man.
That's gonna kill me, And I think it takes a level of like fed upness, of like willing to get uncomfortable to change that. Me and my daughters, a couple months ago, we started praying together,
That's cool.
and it was so uncomfortable, dude. It was so uncomfortable for me to like pray and with my daughters and like to pretend like I'm totally comfortable with this.
Yeah.
But like 2 months in, we're it's just a habit now. Now we do it, and there's this gratitude
Wow.
practice that happens through prayer that I look back, I'm like, holy shit, like we did that. I told my wife, like, we did that shit. Like, look at, like, they're fucking, my daughter's praying for no nightmares tonight. Like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like, but it comes down to this idea of gratitude, of like, how do you implement that into your life? And it took a lot of energy for us to change that pattern, right?
Wow.
And to challenge ourselves, to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. But it's so worth it, you know?
There's a quote I always hear from my pastor. He says, "You might not be where you want to be, but thank God you're not where you used to be."
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to end this. You know, maybe there's some guys watching who feel like they don't got nothing left. Maybe they just got let go from a job. They don't got no money. They feel like they've lost everything. But at least you're able to watch this and get a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And Manny and Jesse, if you guys could share one last piece of advice for anyone who's still struggling, any of the guys out there or wives or mothers, can you guys take a minute and just share some advice to help them?
Yeah, I think one of the, it's cliche, but I'll just say you're not alone. You know, everything you're feeling, everything you're experiencing, is universal. People have felt that before, right? Someone's feeling that right now, and so you can get through this. You're capable of getting through it. You're not alone, and keep going. You know, that's all I got to say. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think change is always possible. I think that sometimes that we get so stuck in cycles and we feel like we can't break away from things. We talked about culturally, if it's being a man, whatever it looks like, but you can break away from what you've been given. Like, you can start again. Like, we're able to do whatever it takes. We might not have the means in the moment in time, but like, allow yourself to try on change. Change is very awkward. Change is very scary. But if we don't change, we don't grow, we don't get better. But we can. It's there for you. Just give yourself that opportunity, that chance. Don't lose hope. I mean, hope can be a dangerous little thing sometimes, but just try it, fight for it. So
I like that.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Go to counseling. Yeah. So
the cool thing is, we have a phone number anyone can call. People literally call us all day and all night. We wake up to people reaching out, people from other countries, and we just do our best to help them. So if you know somebody that's struggling, feel free to reach out to us. Send them the link to this. If you want to get connected with these boys, hit us up. We'll connect you to them. We just want to help people. That's all we're in it for. And we hope you guys enjoy this video. We'll see you back next time. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.